watching The Wood Review. I'm John Wood Jr. 3 days before I sat down to film this video, a young man whose name I won't mention walked onto the campus of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. He carried an AR-15 rifle, and with it he took the lives of some 17 people, mostly students, wounding 15 others during 3 minutes of gunfire. The nation mourned, of course, and continues to mourn. Our flags fly at half-mast. But we are familiar with these tragedies by now in America. They have become a hallmark of our time. I don't mention this incident to draw attention to guns. It is worth saying briefly that not only is there a powerful argument to be made for gun control in America, but that there is also a compelling case to be stated in support of requiring armed security at schools. If you or I feel an immediate reflexive resistance to even the mention of either of these ideas, on account of our partisan and ideological leanings, then we ought to stop and reassess our values and our priorities. In matters personal and political, of life and death, any problem worth solving is a problem worth considering answers for that are not necessarily your own. Likewise, any problem that can only be solved with others is a problem worth communicating over in a way that actually invites people to be a part of the solution. And yet, the greater truth we deal with is that the depth of the problem of dramatic violence that faces America today is one that falls outside of the reach of our government to solve. We can make guns harder for the criminal and mentally ill to acquire, and we can put them in the hands of responsible people who might be positioned to protect us sometimes. But I believe most of us feel that there is a gnawing hollowness in the lives that so many of us are leading, particularly young people. And that from this hollowness certain demons are arising in the hearts of Americans, demons that bring with them terrible consequences for individuals and for society. There is no one-size-fits-all psychological or demographic profile for the perpetrators of these mass killings. They are almost invariably men and usually younger, but beyond that they come from different economic, geographic, and cultural backgrounds. But they do share a common bondage. They're united in their anger and their hatred. It is hatred towards society, humanity, and life itself. It is the bitterness of people who feel that the world has betrayed them. We can choose to look at the acts of madmen as being like natural disasters if we want to. We can tell ourselves that such incidents are merely the caprice of human psychopathy. But this ignores the fact that what we are witnessing is merely the extremes of our own nature, expressing themselves in the most radical possible ways. These actions arise from feelings that exist on a continuum of anger and despair, with each mass murderer they produce finding himself statistically surrounded by 10,000 other people who choose only to kill themselves. A disproportionate number of these are teenagers and young adults. If you read the tortured words of one of the Columbine killers, you find that his pain arose largely from a loneliness and purposelessness that so many of us can relate to. He was rejected and humiliated by his peers, by the girls he liked, unable to find a useful talent, a direction, purpose, or justification for his life and for existence. In fact, loneliness and severe social isolation are states attributable to the young murderers in Charleston, Aurora, and according to some students who remembered him, to the killer in Parkland as well. Their lives are voids through which they never stop falling, and the abyss is just what we see. Now, yes, there are often other variables at play in the minds of these people. More importantly, these common struggles against life's pains are not excuses to harm others, or even yourself. Most of us experience some degree of social rejection or existential doubt and survive it. Usually, it is just a part of growing up. And yet, if we do manage to grow up out of the pits of our adolescent anxiety to lead healthy, meaningful lives, it is always because we find something meaningful to strive for or to believe in that gives us a reason to pull our heads up from the darkness to look towards the light. The reason can be any number of things. It can be the love of a family or circle of friends that cares for you and seeks to understand you. It can be the chance to serve your country abroad, to know the dignity that comes with wearing a uniform. It can be championing a cause you believe in alongside activists and organizers who share your ideals. It can be the discovery of a talent or idea you have that others see value in, that you take joy in seeing grow. It can be faith in God, and the conviction that you serve a Creator whose love for you is greater and fuller than the shallow bitterness that surrounds you. In all cases, we find the most meaning in the relationships we build with one another. I knew depression when I was younger. I had moments when I hurt myself, where I felt empty, unacknowledged, and alone. But I had family who not only loved me, but who stood by me in the darkest of times. I had friends and teachers who found me in bitter moments and reminded me that life was sweeter than I was allowing myself to realize. I had role models who helped me discover and grow my own talents. And ultimately, I was raised to believe in the idea that meaning is found in love and in virtue, and that a good life is one spent in the service of others. I was able to find a path then, one that was populated with friendly faces who would help me stand long enough to be able to walk it on my own. As we retreat into the silos of a shallow modernity, as we hide away in our devices, in our partisan bubbles, in churches that do not engage the community, and in communities that do not value fellowship, seeking the company of only those around whom we feel safe and comfortable until finally we realize that we are all alone, we not only create the space for there to be more monsters, such as those who have arisen in Colorado, South Carolina, Florida, Connecticut, and so many other places in America. We create space for ourselves to become just a little more like them, removed, bitter, nihilistic, and numb. We create more room for crime, depression, despair, and loneliness. And that is the real danger of our time. It is said that in the aftermath of 9/11, suicide rates plummeted in New York City. Depression diminished, and New Yorkers who had seen their neighbors hurling through windows, plummeting thousands of feet to their doom only days before, found themselves invigorated and eager to face the future. It wasn't that they were not sad. It was that the silver lining of tragedy is that it sometimes leads us to remember what really matters. Life loses its meaning when we lose sight of our need for each other. But sometimes loss helps us rediscover our love for one another. For where there is love, there is common purpose and meaning to be found. God willing, we will learn these lessons again, so that all these tears will not have been shed in vain. Like, share, and subscribe. You're watching The Wood Review.